I can absolutely knock Ilia Topuria out on the White House lawn.
How do you know that?
Because I know how crazy this game is. I know the power I possess. I know the skill that I have.
He
I know
possesses a lot of power.
Of course, he could knock me out also.
Right.
But there's no way to find out, and I also will. I just want the chance.
You want him?
Of course.
That's right.
Yeah, he's the champion. He's the champion. If he finished Volkanovski, finished Holloway, if I could do it, it will be the best script. Then I will believe this is all simulation. 100%, because it'll be crazy. And that's what I'm here for, to do something fucking crazy.
What if you win and you do it by knocking him out? Is that something that would make you retire as well? You said you would retire with a knockout loss. Would you retire with a knockout win?
I already let you get me in trouble once with money.
How is that trouble? How's that trouble? All they do is call you back and offer you more money to stay. I mean,
if I knock out Ilia Topuria, I'm sure I would keep fighting.
And if you lost by knockout to him, you would retire.
If I lost by knockout to a bicycle in between, then I would be done. Like, I would not allowing myself to get these traumatic brain injuries.
And he drops his hand, he wants to throw his uppercut, and that moment Ilia gonna overhook him and knock him out right away. Because he has no chin. Even like Perry, he touched him so easy, and he was bubbling, you know, his legs was shaking.
Yeah.
I'll just lay it out there. Ilia's striking is leagues above everybody.
Yeah.
Like just about everybody in the UFC.
Yeah, man.
You know, and the wrestling and jiu-jitsu is there as well. His timing, his instincts, his instinct to fire off in like his counter.
This isn't about technique breakdowns or fight predictions anymore. What separates a predator like Ilia Topuria from every other fighter isn't his striking accuracy or his grappling credentials. It's something far more terrifying and primal, an almost supernatural ability to see violence before it happens. When Topuria steps into that octagon, he's not just reacting to what his opponent throws at him. He's 3 moves ahead, calculating the exact moment your defenses will crack, timing his counters with the precision of a Swiss watch. And here's what nobody's talking about: his opponents know it too. You can see it in their eyes during the stare-downs. They're not just fighting a man, they're fighting someone who's already mapped out their destruction in his mind. This guy doesn't step into the cage to compete. He steps in to hunt. And if you think Justin Gaethje's warrior spirit is going to overcome that kind of calculated violence, you're about to witness a masterclass in why champions aren't just made from heart alone.
That's not saying that we'll see that Gaethje when he fights Ilia. Maybe that was just the game plan for Paddy to just make it doggy.
Honestly, I think it's the more competitive fight here because of how willing and how dangerous Gaethje is, to trade on the feet. This is a guy who's not going to be afraid of anybody. If he believes that the guy across from him is going to try to punch him or strike his way to victory.
But hold up. If you think Justin Gaethje is walking into this fight planning to stand and trade bombs like he did with Dustin Poirier, then you haven't been paying attention to the evolution happening right before your eyes. Those legendary wars with Poirier, with Tony Ferguson, with Chandler, that wasn't mindless violence. That was strategic chaos deployed against specific opponents who matched that energy. Against a surgical striker like Topuria, you're going to see a completely different version of Gaethje. We're talking about a fighter who spent his entire career adapting his DNA to match whatever threat is standing across from him. The man who went to war with Poirier understands that trying to out-technical Topuria is suicide. So what's his game plan? Simple. Drag this fight into the deepest, darkest waters possible and see who drowns first. Gaethje isn't just going to pressure Topuria, he's going to systematically dismantle every comfort zone the champion has. This is where legends separate themselves from pretenders. True champions don't just fight, they transform into whatever weapon is needed to destroy the man in front of them.
I think it's going to be a very, very tough fight for him if Topuria is in his peak form and mentally fit and able. I think it's going to be a tough fight for Gaethje, no question about it. But I think Gaethje will welcome that trade any day.
I'm the only one that knows how hard I work. I'm the only one that can trust in the preparation. I'm the only one that understands.
And here's the brutal truth that every analyst is missing about Gaethje's preparation for this fight. His confidence isn't coming from some motivational speech or highlight reel training footage. This is the product of years of solitary suffering, the kind of mental and physical torture that happens behind closed doors where no cameras roll and no crowds cheer. While other fighters are posting Instagram stories from their training camps, Geeth is grinding through the type of preparation that would break most human beings. That unshakable belief you see in his interviews, that's not bravado. That's the quiet confidence of a man who knows he's put in work that his opponent can't even comprehend. When that cage door slams shut and the lights hit, technique goes out the window. What matters then is who's willing to suffer more, who's prepared to go to places mentally and physically that their opponent isn't. And that psychological edge, that willingness to embrace absolute chaos while everyone else is looking for perfect technique, that's what separates a warrior from a champion.
Trained it since I was a small child. I've sacrificed everything to be in this position right now. And if I'm going to bet on someone or something, it's going to be on myself.
I could see him waiting for Ilia, which we didn't talk about that matchup. Early thoughts on that one. Fucking horrible matchup for Justin.
Yeah.
Horrible matchup for Justin. How he was eating uppercuts with Patty, and then how he doesn't avoid punches very well. He just kind of makes me like.
Here's where reality crashes into fantasy, and it's an uncomfortable truth that Geeth's army of fans doesn't want to hear. That legendary heart, that willingness to walk through fire, becomes a liability against a precision striker like Topuria. Every time Geeth has shown that warrior spirit, every time he's eaten shots to give shots, he's been building a highlight reel for Topuria's future knockout compilation. Those defensive lapses that made his fights with Poirier and Ferguson so exciting. Against Topuria, they're not entertainment. They're death sentences waiting to happen. Topuria isn't just landing punches, he's placing them with the accuracy of a sniper. Each strike has intent, each combination is designed to shut off your lights permanently. And here's the kicker: Geeth's pattern of taking damage to dish out damage works against wild brawlers, but against a calculated assassin who can hurt you with single shots. That's not strategy, that's self-destruction. The uncomfortable reality is that heart alone doesn't overcome surgical precision, especially when that precision is backed by knockout power that can end fights with one perfectly timed counter.
Small box and his ability to throw punches and avoid being hit there and then land, make you miss, and then land again. That's bad fucking business for JG, bro.
No, Elia's at another speed, another type of athlete. And Gage always has the same mistakes he's always made on the stand-up. He's still making them. And when he's lunging in, getting hit with those rights, Ilia does the same thing. He's going to cancel his career on the spot. He's going to put a stop payment on all that shit right on the spot. You know, I think Ilia will get him, Gagey out of the round one type shit.
It was so funny. It was so funny when I was like legit, 100 people.
Now here's what's really wild about this whole situation. Topuria isn't just fast, he's operating in a completely different dimension of speed and timing that makes elite fighters look like they're moving underwater. Remember how he made Max Holloway, one of the slickest boxers in the sport, look ordinary? That wasn't luck or a good night. That was a systematic dismantling of a legend by someone who sees the game on a level most fighters never reach. But here's Geeth's problem: those same tells, those same setups he's relied on throughout his career, they're written in stone at this point. Against wild brawlers, predictability doesn't matter because everyone's just swinging for the fences. Against Topuria, those patterns aren't just habits, they're literally invitations to get knocked unconscious. The brutal truth about elite-level mixed martial arts is that heart can only carry you so far when your opponent's fight IQ is operating in a completely different stratosphere. Champions don't just fight harder, they fight smarter. And when you're facing someone who can see your attacks coming before you've even decided to throw them, all the warrior spirit in the world becomes irrelevant.
I was like, do we really have to do this? And I said to them, I said to the whole media room, I go, does anyone in this room think that Justin Gagey is going to win that fight? I said, the cameras are pointed at me. I said, no one's going to see put your hand up because the cameras are all pointed at me. Bro, of 100 of the media, of the UFC media people, not a single person put their hand up. And I was like, wow, why do we... Well, I'm not being sad. I like Justin Gagey.
You want to know what real fight IQ looks like? It's walking into a room full of experts, analysts, and former champions, and hearing every single one of them count you out. It's listening to the media craft narratives about your opponent being unstoppable, unbeatable, the next great champion. That's exactly the position Geith finds himself in right now. Everyone's already writing Topuria's coronation story, already penciling him in for super fights and title defenses. But here's what those same experts are forgetting about the nature of this sport: one perfectly timed counter, one moment of chaos, one split second where the supposed superior fighter gets caught, and every prediction, every narrative, every confident analysis gets thrown out the window. The octagon doesn't care about your credentials or your hype. It only cares about what happens when that cage door closes and two men try to impose their will on each other. And the man who refuses to stay down, who thrives in chaos, who's made a career out of proving experts wrong. That's not someone you count out. That's someone who rewrites the script when everyone thinks the story's already been told.
Would want him to do it in a more measured way, avoid the uppercuts better, the knees and stuff like that. But you think you're going to beat Ilia, moving back? I think the best guy who could do that is Max with his great footwork, and Ilia was able to find those low kicks and take out the footwork of Max Holloway and find the finish. So it's not a bad idea for Justin to think about pressure.
Think you can beat a predator like Topuria by giving ground and trying to manage distance? Ask Max Holloway how that strategy worked out for him. Blessed, arguably one of the most sophisticated strikers in MMA history, tried to use his footwork and boxing to outpoint Topuria. Instead, he got systematically broken down, chopped up with leg kicks, and eventually knocked unconscious by a man who refused to let him fight at his preferred range. Geith knows this. Deep in his bones, he understands that trying to out-technical Topuria is a losing proposition. So what's his only path to victory? Simple: drag this fight into the absolute deepest, darkest waters possible and force Topuria to fight ugly. This isn't about technique or strategy anymore. This is about who can impose their will when everything goes to hell. Geith's pressure isn't just a tactic, it's a statement. It's him looking across that octagon and essentially saying, I don't care how good you think you are, you're going to have to break me to beat me. And breaking Justin Geith? That's something nobody has figured out how to do yet. The question isn't whether Geith can outstrike Topuria, he can't. The question is whether Topuria can maintain his surgical precision when Geith turns this fight into absolute chaos.
But him versus Patty looked a little bit less, I think, less technical than we're used to. Like his performance against myself, his performance against Tony Ferguson, his performance against Dustin Poirier. Some of these ones where it's like it's a little more traditional. Patty is not a traditional movement. He is not a non-traditional movement. A little bit herky-jerky, a little bit awkward, a little bit weird. Just weird is the only way to put it, right? And that can be effective in the sport of mixed martial arts. But when you have a guy who's a lot more technical, sometimes you kind of fall into that vein, so to speak. So not because of the last performance, but
here's what people don't understand about Geith's seemingly awkward, almost crude fighting style. It's not a weakness. It's a weapon specifically designed to destroy rhythm and timing. Against technical strikers who rely on perfect distance and precise combinations, Geith's chaotic pressure is like throwing a wrench into a Swiss watch. Everything Topuria has practiced, every game plan his coaches have developed, gets thrown out the window when Geith starts applying that relentless, suffocating pressure. This isn't about who has better technique or cleaner striking. This is about who can function when their opponent refuses to let them fight their fight. Topuria has built his reputation on surgical precision, on finding the perfect moments to land fight-ending shots. But what happens when your opponent doesn't give you those moments? What happens when every exchange is messy, chaotic, and unpredictable? That's the test Geith brings to every fight. He doesn't just try to beat you. He tries to drag you into his world where technical superiority means nothing and only pure will matters. The fighter who can impose their style, who can force their opponent to fight their fight, that's usually the one walking out with their hand raised.
Offensively and defensively, Gaethje's willing to take one to give you a big one, and I think that's could be a critical mistake against a guy who hasn't been knocked out before, where Gaethje has been knocked out, right? So, and I think that's the only way he gets it done, because if he gets into a slugfest where he starts trading, I think the guy you're probably going to favor in that situation is probably the shorter, stockier guy in this one, who's shown to have bricks for hands.
I will say this, I do worry about Gaethje a little bit.
But here's the terrifying reality for anyone thinking they can just trade shots with Topuria. This man has never been hurt, never been dropped, never seen the canvas from the wrong angle. When you're talking about fighting someone with that kind of record, that psychological edge becomes a massive factor. Geeth's fire, his willingness to walk through punishment to land his own shots, that's worked against fighters who can be hurt, who have shown they can be broken. Against someone who's proven to be virtually indestructible, that warrior mentality can quickly become self-destructive. Every shot Geeth takes while trying to land his own is adding up on a scorecard that heavily favors the man who's never been truly tested. Topuria isn't just a good striker with heavy hands. He's a force of nature who's never shown a single crack in his armor. That unbeaten record, that aura of invincibility, it's not just statistics. It's a psychological weapon that can break fighters before the first punch is thrown. The mental game in championship fights is just as important as the physical one, and right now, Topuria holds every psychological advantage you can imagine.
Topuria fight will be a disaster. It's almost guaranteed. Topuria is not Paddy Pimblett. He hits like a truck. He's going to stay in the pocket, and it looks like, based on the way Paddy took those punches, that Ilia will be able to navigate through that. I just think that's a disaster fight.
And also, once again, big fan of Justin Gaethje. Unless the divorce ruins Ilia Topuria and we don't see him for a couple years, if he is a fraction of the guy who knocked out Charles Oliveira, he's going to kill Justin.
Listen to what Geethje is really saying when he talks about this fight. He's not just planning to brawl anymore, and if you think that's what's going to happen, you're stuck in the past. The patient, measured approach he's developed isn't weakness. It's the evolution of a veteran who's learned to pick his moments with surgical precision. He's mastered the art of controlled chaos, knowing exactly when to unleash the full force of his violence for maximum impact. But here's what's really interesting about the hype surrounding Topuria. That undefeated record, that aura of invincibility, it's built on a foundation that's never been truly tested by championship-level pressure. Every fighter, no matter how dominant they look, has a breaking point. The question is whether they'll face an opponent skilled enough and determined enough to find it. Geethje isn't just bringing power and pressure to this fight. He's bringing the experience of someone who's been to hell and back in that octagon. This isn't going to be a technical chess match or a showcase of superior skills. This is about who's willing to suffer more, who can function when everything goes wrong, who can find a way to win when their original game plan gets thrown out the window. And in those kinds of fights, experience and mental toughness often trump pure talent.
Different attacks, good energy, everything. We saw in rounds, Justin was kind of looking at the clock at the end of rounds like, all right, how much is left? He paced himself like a veteran, guys.
Topuria's fights, I think people remember the end of them and sort of remember them as this like crazy one-way traffic, and the Oliveira one maybe was, but Holloway had success on the feet against him. Volkanovski actually had success on the feet against him. So it's not like he's just this crazy undefeatable guy. He's just got this unbelievable power. So I think like if Gaethje goes out there...
When Geethje talks about making this a car crash, he's not just describing his fighting style. He's revealing his entire strategy for dethroning Topuria. The thing about car crashes is that they're unpredictable, chaotic, and they test who can survive when everything goes to hell. Geethje doesn't just fight you. He systematically drags you into his world where technique takes a backseat to pure will and determination. If Topuria loses that clinical focus for even a moment, if he gets pulled into the kind of wild brawl that Geethje thrives in, then every prediction about this fight becomes meaningless. But here's the hidden cost that nobody talks about when it comes to surviving Geethje's chaos. Even if you manage to weather his storm, even if you find a way to win, the process of doing so often leaves fighters fundamentally changed. The amount of punishment you have to absorb, the mental and physical toll of matching Geethje's intensity, it's the kind of thing that can shorten careers and diminish future performances. True champions don't just survive these kinds of wars, they find ways to win them without getting dragged into the mud. The real test for Topuria isn't whether he can hurt Geethje, it's whether he can maintain his surgical precision when the entire world is burning down around him.
Justin Gaethje fights over the past, 8 years, like, that man can pull anyone into a fight, and once he pulls you into his type of fight, all bets are off. He can beat anyone, he can land something crazy, he can compromise you, so... If Ilia stays disciplined and fights technical, tough night for Justin, but if he can get him into his type of fight, I think there's an opportunity there.
Forget And here's the final, brutal truth about this matchup that everyone needs to understand. Geeth's chin first, walk-forward approach might look like courage, but against Topuria, it's basically writing his own knockout highlight reel. Topuria doesn't just land punches, he places them with the precision of a surgeon and the power of a sledgehammer. This isn't about making predictions based on past performances or analyzing stylistic matchups. This is about evolution and adaptation. You don't just show up against Topuria hoping your heart and toughness will be enough. You either evolve your entire approach, find new ways to impose your will, or you become another name on his resume. Championship status demands more than just a warrior's heart. It demands the intelligence to outthink a predator who's been systematically destroying everyone put in front of him. So here's my question for you, drop it in the comments below. Do you think Geeth's chaos can overcome Topuria's precision, or are we about to witness the systematic dismantling of a legend? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really at stake in this fight, smash that like button, subscribe for more in-depth fight analysis, and hit the notification bell because this war is going to reshape the entire featherweight division. I'll see you in the next one.
Oh, you're certainly going to favor Topuria here because when he lands the type of shots that Paddy did against Gaethje, the difference is people go to sleep.
But Justin, we got to clean up a lot, especially if Topuria is next. The dip into the head, the keeping your chin up, the just walking forward recklessly. It's not going to work with a guy like Topuria, who looks for openings, who finds his angles, who has crazy power in his hands. Paddy was landing some great shots, great uppercuts, even that little switch jab uppercut.
But wait, there's something nobody's talking about that could completely flip this entire narrative on its head. Geeth's team has been studying Topuria's fights obsessively, and they've identified something that every analyst has missed. Watch Topuria's performances again, but this time focus on what happens when fighters actually make him work backward. Those brief moments when opponents force him to reset, when they disrupt his rhythm even slightly. That's when microscopic cracks start to appear in that perfect facade. It's not about landing the perfect shot or out-technical him. It's about creating sustained chaos that forces Topuria to fight reactive instead of proactive. Here's what makes this discovery so dangerous for Topuria. His entire fighting identity is built on being the aggressor, on dictating pace and distance. But Geeth's pressure isn't like anything he's faced before. This isn't Max Holloway trying to outbox him or Josh Emmett looking for one big shot. This is relentless, suffocating pressure that doesn't stop coming regardless of what you throw back. Topuria has never had to deal with someone who can absorb his best shots and keep walking forward like nothing happened. That psychological edge he's always maintained. It evaporates the moment your opponent eats your hardest punch and smiles back at you. And here's the kicker that changes everything about how we should view this matchup. Geeth's recent performances haven't just shown evolution. They've revealed a fighter who's learned to weaponize his own durability. Instead of just walking through shots hoping to land his own, he's now using his chin as bait to draw opponents into exchanges where his power advantage becomes decisive. Against Topuria's precision striking, this becomes an incredibly dangerous game of chicken. One perfectly timed counter from either man ends the fight instantly, but the psychological pressure of knowing your opponent isn't afraid of your power. That's the kind of mental warfare that can break even the most confident champions. Think about what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Physics tells us something has to give, but in fighting, that moment of collision often reveals truths about both fighters that nobody saw coming. Topuria's surgical precision has never been tested against someone who refuses to be broken down systematically. Geeth's warrior heart has never faced someone who can potentially end the fight with a single perfectly placed shot. This isn't just a fight, it's a collision of two completely different philosophies about what it means to be a champion. Real story here isn't about who wins or loses. It's about what this fight reveals about the current state of mixed martial arts. Are we in an era where technical perfection and fight IQ reign supreme, or do heart and determination still matter when everything is on the line? Topuria represents the future calculated, precise, seemingly flawless. Geeth represents the soul of the sport raw, emotional, willing to die on his shield. When these two worlds collide, we're not just getting a fight. We're getting an answer to the fundamental question of what truly makes a champion in today's game.